Good morning, everyone. I just like to apologize for our late start. We had a closed session meeting prior to, and we ran a little longer than we anticipated. So having said that, I'd just like to welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee Special Session of Council this 30th day of March 2023. I just want to remind everyone that this morning's meeting is going to be recorded and live streamed to the Town of Greater Napanee YouTube channel. Having said that, we'll now call the meeting to order. As I just stated that we were in closed session and met at 9 o'clock this morning to discuss matters permitted to be discussed in closed session pursuant to section 239 in the Municipal Act. I'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session, moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried. I'd like to report that council rise and report from closed session, and further that all recommendations made within closed session here be adopted, which are received for information a confidential CAO report regarding personal information about identifiable individuals, and gave direction to staff. That being said, I'll look for an adoption of the agenda as amended. We've slightly amended this morning's adoption. What I would like to do is remove the budget enhancement sheet in the agenda. And I'll just describe it here. It's with respect to Public Works sidewalk machine, purchase new sidewalk machine. So with removing that from the agenda. And so I'll look for adoption of the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Pennell, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, items for discussion, a presentation of the draft 2023 operating budget. And I believe, Nicole, that will be you. So you're up. Thanks.
All right, good morning through you, Mr. Mayor. So we are going to present the town's budget. So for a review of our last session, we had a general review of overall revenues, a high level of each department with a view of salaries, contracted services, materials and supplies, and net department revenue and loss. Within that budget, we had the incorporation of a 10% cut for operating and maintenance costs across all municipal expenses, and we provided some waste collection scenario analysis. Out of our last session, we provided some further breakdown of what makes up our contracted services. There was a request for the impact of keeping the downtown Wi-Fi and cameras. Council wished to have some analysis done on the cost of an additional firefighter. Some analysis on the cost benefit of switching to a 24-hour firefighter model. Additional waste collection scenario analysis, the composition of our long-term debt, and a review of actuals from 2022 versus the 2023 budget. So first, what we will get into is our breakdown of our long-term debt based on 2022 budget to 2023 budget. So within here, within the descriptions, the date that is described on each of the debt lines, this is the date that represents when the liability will become expired. So at the end of the years represented here is when these liabilities for debt will come off of our books. Is there any questions in regards to that?
Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Nicole, when you say that that is when it comes off, will there be another payment then? For instance, I'm looking at the SBC debenture, March 24th. Do we have to pay in 24, or is that?
Yes. So through you, Mr. Mayor, the SPC debenture, the last payment for that is March 2024. The rest of the debt here would be the end of those years.
Great,
the end
thank
of the fiscal year.
Yep, wait, Nicole.
So here we are representing a comparison of 2022 budget to 2022 actuals with 2023 budget as a comparison. And this was requested out of last budget session. Keep in mind the actuals are still subject to minimal change through year end and audit presentment. At our next regular session of council, Finance will be providing a staff report based on 2022 year-to-date results. At that time, we will provide a more detailed variance analysis regarding those numbers. So I just want to make sure that we don't get into the weeds of 2022 analysis, and this is just a comparative for budget purposes. Changes you will notice on this slide. So in the previous presentation, I had made an error in the representation of the 2022 budget figure. I had not included the amount that was approved for capital in the 2022 budget. This has now been corrected, as well as including the portion of the capital ask for high priority items for this year, and we will touch on that in a later slide. Total budget revenue for 2023 on this slide is based on running the bag tag program as is. We present different scenarios in a later slide. You will also notice here that contracted services for 2023 has increased by $30,000 for cemetery tree trimming as directed in resolution 101/23. Any questions on this slide before we move on?
Seeing none.
So to recap general government, right now we are looking at overall 8% increase budget over budget for the division. The net increase is due to leases being centralized to general government. In the other breakdown, this includes tax write-offs and bank service fees and donations, just to explain essentially what is in that other column. Is there any questions regarding general government?
Seeing none.
In the clerk department, we have an overall decrease of 28%. Revenue is reduced due to discontinuing of boarding fees. Contracted services is also reduced for a change in the scope of enforcement activities. The reserve contribution, again, is related to a contribution for the election reserve, which we contribute to annually. For corporate services, oh, sorry.
Thank you, through your worship, through you, Nicole, when you said boarding, is that for the dog pound boarding fees?
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you.
Corporate services has an overall increase of 4% budget over budget. We have reduced budgeted revenues for youth programming. Materials were reduced through various supplies budgets across the division, and contracted services deduction is mostly due to the realignment of IT system savings. This reserve contribution amount is related to the accessibility review reserve. Is there any questions on corporate services?
Seeing none, go ahead.
Parks and facilities has an overall 9% increase budget over budget. And this is mainly due to the increased facility costs for the new administrative building, which is an additional incremental net new. The contribution amount, which is in the actuals for 2022, that was related to fleet contributions in that year.
Yeah, go ahead.
For cemeteries, we have an overall increase of 27%. As previously mentioned, based on the resolution from council, we have added in $30,000 for contracted services related to tree trimming.
Yep, go ahead. Seeing them questions.
Fire has an overall 1% decrease. There's essentially no change in this slide from the last presentation. However, this slide does not include the incremental cost of an additional firefighter. That will be touched on in a later slide.
Okay.
Protective services, again, has no change from the last presentation, and it was an overall 1% increase. So this would be for our policing contract and our conservation authority. Growth and expansion has a 52% budget decrease overall. There is an increase in budgeted permit revenues as well as decreased materials and supplies. In 2022, you will see a very large revenue amount. We had some very large permits that came in that year. And we have leveled that back off to, for budget purposes, to be in line with where we predict our revenues will be. You will notice for 2022 actual, there is a large bump in contracted services. There was additional work that was done that was funded from DCs. And the net offset of that is within the contribution to reserve. It's showing as a negative because that is a net amount, which was money's coming back in from DCs to fund that additional contracted services work. Any questions on
I
that?
think Councillor Shank.
Yeah, so Nicole, when you factor into the budget, because of the large amount of building permits that were issued in 2022, so a supplemental will come in 2023, right? So if it's a 3%, what I've always done in the past is if it's a 3% growth, all right, of more money, we factor in maybe 2.25, all right, because of, people are going to appeal their assessment or whatever it might happen. So is that factored in here also, or into the budget of the supplemental tax that'll come in?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an estimate of 200,000 for growth.
Okay. So you've already factored in the supplemental.
Yep.
All right.
Any additional questions?
May I ask where that is on this again?
It is within general government revenues.
Oh, okay. In the future,
go ahead,
sorry, in the future, could you make a line item there for supplemental, just because when it gets all put together, it's hard for me to go ahead and say, hey, what was our supplemental into it?
Absolutely. Public Works has an overall 5% increase budget over budget. In here, you will see a negative amount in the 2022 actuals under the other column. What the other column represents is this is where our internal fleet costs, we do a charge out and charge back within Public Works. So of this amount, there's $220,000 of vehicle costs for internal use that was charged to capital. So it puts a non-cash credit into our Public Works department, as well as there is an additional cost recovery that we need to collect back from the county for additional work we did over and above our normal metric allotment for roads work for the county.
Okay.
Not seeing any questions.
No, seeing none.
So the solid waste slide. So this is leaving solid waste as is with no change to the bag tag program. And this represents a 13% increase on total budget. And the majority of this increase is due to the curbside collection, which is a cost of $1.4 million. If I go to the next slide, what we were representing was 25 tags being mailed out to residents at a cost of $4 per tag. This revenue would be included on their tax bill, but each resident would include 25 or would have 25 tags that they can use for the remainder of the year. We would also change the cost of all tags to be $4 if purchased over and above. We have not factored in any estimate for revenue for additional bag tag sales at this point because we can't with certainty have any sort of estimate on what that would be. So we are just strictly including half year's regular bag tag sales and then putting in this 25 tags at $4. In the next slide, we also,
Yep, sorry.
and sorry, this is still on the bag tags. It's just another view of other different projections around the bag tags.
Are you able to hold on to your questions until we get to the end of this slide or no?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
So here you can see we have a side-by-side comparison of the first column of 2023 budget. So that is leaving the bag tag program as is. Then we have three scenarios of 25 bag tags being mailed out at $3, $4, and $5 a bag tag. You can see under the total tax levy line, if we leave the program as is, we would be looking at a tax increase of 5.02%. If we were to bump over to mailing out 25 tags at $4, all else equal, we would be looking at a tax increase of 2.2%. And then we would look to council to see if there was any additional contributions to reserves that we wanted to look at, or what we wanted to do from that scenario. So you can kind of see the gamut of what the different scenarios would look like in this case.
And I think we probably have some questions. Councilor Pinal.
Thank you through your worship.
Oh, sorry. I'll get to you next, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you through your worship. Nicole, could you just please explain to the asterisks of includes the 735,400 garbage surcharge. And also, I know I got caught up on this a little bit about the 25 bags, but that 25 tags, that's only for the remainder of the year. And then next year they would actually get 50 tags or 52 tags.
We would send through you, Mr. Mayor, we would send out 50 tags just simply for optics. We would have to sit and cut individual tags to get to the 2 tag. Similar to other municipalities that do this. The municipality that I have lived in, they send out 50 tags just for ease of use based on how many tags are on a sheet.
Okay, thanks. And about the 735 surcharge?
So what that surcharge is that is the 25 tags times 4 times the number of households that we would send that out to.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Calver.
So on the bottom of that slide, through your worship, you're showing a additional fire. Is that what?
Yes, so that line down there as well represents if we were, so out of last session, there was the inquiry to see what the cost of an additional firefighter would be for this year. So that would also include if we move to another firefighter, that would be the increase within each of those scenarios.
And I think Councilor Martin.
Yeah, just wanted to double check on something. So what's the mail out cost on the 25 tags for per household?
Yep, so we have included in here, and sorry, I didn't touch on that. Under the materials line, it's approximately about $10,000 for postage and the cost of envelopes. We would not be able to include this in our actual tax mailing. There's not enough room in the envelope because we will have our final tax bills, we'll have the town insert as well as the county insert. And also not all bills get sent out immediately. If you are with a banking institution that pays for your taxes, we send those bills out once we receive payment. So it gets sent out in more of a receipt fashion. So not every resident would be getting their bag tags at the same time. So there is an additional cost of mailing that out.
So these lines are all with 25 tags included,
Correct.
except for the as is.
Yes.
So we're going to charge residents a tax levy. Then we're going to give them back 25 tags for the rest of this year. And we're going to incur costs of $10,000 to mail out those. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Terry,
Yeah.
Mayor, just through you.
Yeah.
I still have concerns about the landlord-tenant situation where the tags don't get to the tenant, but the tenant's putting out the garbage. Like there's different scenarios, different landlords. Richmond Park out there, the landlord out there used to give his tenants a bag tag per week, which was 52. I know that from past experience. It seems to me we're creating a lot of confusion between landlords and tenants, revenue in, revenue out. I'm just not comfortable with that bag tag, whole bag tag situation. My preference would be just to simply increase the bag tags, but I just want to throw that out there.
No, I appreciate that. I guess the concept is that if you're going to pay for them, you should get something in an envelope to say you paid for something, right? So that's the idea of sending the bag tags out. So the home or the property owners are actually paying for them through their taxes. So they're going to get something solid in their hands to say, hey, if I'm going to pay $200 to the end of the year, I'm getting something for that, right? So then it'll be up to the property owner or the landlords to deal with that whichever way they want, right? So that's my thinking on it, or at least that's my,
So you don't think we're going to get all kinds of complaints from tenants saying they didn't get their tags?
they don't pay the taxes. If they pay the taxes, they get the tags, right?
I understand that. I'm just saying it's getting, we're confusing. We're creating a confusing situation. We're giving them, the landlords, money, and then we're charging them for that anyways, but we're giving them part of it back. I mean, if you didn't give, you're just trying to create an optic, I guess, of they're getting something for it, when in fact they've paid for it themselves. We're charging them a tax levy, right?
Ultimately, it's going on your tax bill, right? But at least-
Exactly.
At least you're going to have an identifiable object that you're saying that's what I paid. That's what the $200 is for. So you sort of lost me with respect and with respect to the levy part of it.
Well-
The price of the bag tags doesn't cover the total price of the garbage.
No, I realize that.
Okay.
I realize that.
Okay.
So are we recovering the total cost of garbage pickup with the bag tags and the tax levy?
The levy?
No,
So we haven't eliminated that either. We're,
No, we've minimized it, I think, right?
yeah, we've reduced the need for subsidization.
okay.
But we,
But I don't want to confuse the issue. We're trying to get through the budget, but
no, you're not confusing anything, Bill.
It-
And it's good to have these conversations, right? So.
no, I'm just looking at, if somebody says to me, give me this much money because we need it for garbage removal, and then they say, but I'm going to give it part of it back. I'm just saying, well, don't bother giving me that back and don't charge me as much. I mean, there's a lot of ways of looking at this, but I just think we're confusing the whole thing, because I think there's going to be other issues arise from this
Okay.
by charging on taxes, charging for a bag tag, and mailing out, which is a cost of $10,000 to do that. So that cost is coming off of tax levy as well, or what we're gaining from the tax levy. I just think we're confusing an issue that but I mean, I just want to throw that out there because it's been going through my head that,
That's
know.
the important part. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the deputy mayor.
Through you, your worship, I think what Bill is trying to say is what if we just raise the bag tag to $4 a bag straight across? It's a user pay system at that point. Not every person is going to get taxed on it. I realize that we lose money every time somebody picks up a bag of garbage. I totally understand that, but you're going to put an additional tax charge on everybody's tax bill, and you're going to send them out some tags at a cost of 10 grand. If we just raise the bag tag up to $4 straight across the board, if you're generating garbage, you're going to pay $4 to put it out. I don't know. That's just my.
Yeah, I think.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I just ran that scenario quickly. So we would only be looking at that for a half year for this year. If we made that half year change, that would bring our total tax increase to 4.19% with making that change,
As opposed to.
as opposed to 5.02,
Would be 4.19.
4.19. And in regard to the cost of the mailing out, right now, the majority of our foot traffic that come into municipal offices to pay for services is for bag tags. So yes, we still have those staff, but they would be able to focus their efforts on other work as well. So there is an outlay cost, but they can also start working on things that are more value added to the corporation as well. It's not going to completely eliminate the footprint of who's coming in to purchase bag tags, but it would definitely drop the traffic coming in.
Counselor.
So the cost of $10,000 is to mail it out in August,
It would be mailed out in May, June.
sorry, May, June.
Yeah.
But in 2024, it would be mailed out in the first. Would there be room in the envelope to do a year's worth of tags?
Possibly,
Okay,
yes, that is possible. We
So
would
then
probably
it-
have to look at a different size envelope and how we send things out, but
Okay.
there could be work put into that to try to reduce that mail out
Okay.
cost.
just a thought, if there's room.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Pennell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So Nicole, basically at the end of the day, we look at a contract of services of $1,627,097. That has to be paid by I guess, residents one way or the other.
Correct.
So this way I see with giving the bag tags out, we are increasing our revenue and we're decreasing what we would have to charge anyway. I think that, so even after we're giving out the amount of bag tags at $4, there's still gonna be a $453,674 amount that goes against their taxes, right?
That is correct.
So one way or the other, whatever way we do it, it's as a user pay, as my colleagues on the other side of the room state, that it's a user pay system. Yes, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be a leftover that's going to be going on to people's taxes that don't use the garbage collections, correct?
That is correct.
So am I correct by saying that the total garbage is the 1.6 million?
For
Is that-
contracted services, yes, so that is your collection as well as other waste disposal costs that are in there as well. But 1.4 is your curbside collection.
Okay, and sorry, could you just state again what we did, what you did when you ran the numbers again quickly? You took out the bags and or you just simply raised it to $4?
So on slide 16,
16, okay.
so what we did there was we took a half year of regular bag tag sale.
Mhm.
And then for the remainder of the year, we did $4 a tag times 25 tags
Mhm.
times the number of residents that we would mail that out to.
Right, but what, I'm sorry, maybe what I meant was when you ran for the deputy mayor, the 4% or something.
Oh, sorry. So what I did in that instance was I took half of what our regular bag tag sales would be based on last year's projections.
Yes.
I took that out, I reworked the math back, took that number of tags, multiplied by $4 a tag, halved it because we're dealing in a half year increment, and then added those two amounts together to come up to $794,500 as a budgeted estimate for what we would bring in for bag tag revenue.
Okay, so that would increase the taxes how? How much, sorry?
That would be our total tax increase of 4.19%
For, compared to,
compared to 5.02.
thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Yep, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
I'm still concerned with confusing the issue and things that are going to come up, like people who only put one bag out every 2 weeks. They're going to be paying more obviously than somebody that's paying every week. There's all kinds of issues going to come up because of what we're trying to do here. And like I said, I just like to have things simple. And I think it's simple to go buy a bag tag. Buying a bag tag plus having a tax levy. And then giving them 25 tags back. I just think it confuses things, but that's just me. I like to keep it simple. If it makes sense, I do it. If it doesn't make sense, I don't do it. To me, this doesn't make sense. This scenario of giving bag tags back, but That's just me.
Okay. To be the devil's advocate, is that if we raise, what would we have to raise the bag tags to get the revenue that we're doing by sending them out and putting them on the tax bill? What would the bag tag still be at $4 a bag? Would it have to go up to $4.50 a bag to equal what we would be getting at $4 a bag to mail them out, put on the tax bill? Did I explain that right? Probably not.
Can you repeat that again for me? Sorry.
There's a benefit to us putting it on the taxes. The 25 bag tag, there's a benefit to putting it on the taxes.
I think, sorry, through your worship, I think Christie just said it's about $6.
It's $6. So we have to put the bag tags up to about $6. Revenue that we're getting with $4 by sending the bag tags out on the taxes, because everybody's buying bag tags on their taxes. They may or may not use them, but at least if they have them in their hand, they can take them and put them on Kijiji or hand them to the kids or whatever. So.
Terry.
Yep, go ahead, Christy. Sorry.
Sorry, through you, at $6, it would not even, it would just be just under the cost of our curbside collection cost for 1 point at $6 a tag, based on our previous bag tag sale.
Yeah.
An average of the last 5 years would be 1.325 million that we would bring. That doesn't account for the reduction we're going to see because of the price, right? We're not likely to meet that average.
People are going to get a little more ingenuitive and
Yep.
rather than buying a $6 bag tag, they're going to get a little more ingenuitive and not do that, I guess. Okay. Councillor Martin.
But you're confusing the issue too, because you're talking about $6 to cover the entire charge. If at $4 plus giving 25 bag tags back, you're not getting all the revenue it costs to pick that bag of garbage up.
Correct.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're comparing apples and oranges. You're trying to recover the entire cost with a
I
tag.
can ask Christy, what, and then maybe I didn't say it clear enough, Christy, but what would the price of the bag tag be if we don't do the $4 and send it in the taxes? What would the price of the bag tag be just to buy them to get us to where we would be if we put the $4 bag tags in the taxes? So it's going to be less than $6. Will it be more than $4, or will it, I'm assuming it'll be more than $4, but less than $6?
Sorry. Without doing something, just on making some alone.
Yeah, so let's use the two examples. We put the 4 bag tags and we sell them for $4. Put 25 bag tags and sell them for $4. That's going to bring us to a certain revenue. If we didn't do that, and based on the numbers that we've used in the past, how would we get to that number that we're going to get to with just the price of the bag tags? Obviously, it's going to have to be more than 4 bag tags because their numbers wouldn't support that, right? $4 a bag. It's going to be more than that, right? And it's going to be less than $6 because $6 would be the cost recovery equaling number. So my suggestion is it's probably going to be more than 4. It'll probably be in the area of $5 or 5 1/4, right? Mr. Shank, because I know he's going to sort it all out for us. Go ahead, Mike. Oh, then we'll get Nate.
Sorry, Nathan.
Yeah, sorry.
No, this was brought up, Katie brought up this and staff brought this up at the last budget meeting, what it was actually going to cost us. The one, just so Nicole, just make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. The $1.627 million, that's the waste disposal sites, that's the garbage collection, that's basically our solid waste, what it cost the municipality. If we went ahead and kept it the same, just the contracted service just for the $1.4 million, that's just that is not including our sites, that's just including just the bags. It was going to be 1.4 million. If I remember correctly, Katie, at $3 a bag, we were around $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 short at $3. I know it was quite a thing. And it's not like I'm definitely a proponent against the carbon tax and everything else. And this is almost like a carbon tax. And I know there's concerns of, well, I know a lot of people have their own disposal site. They have their own bins, you know, on the farm. My concern is I understand it's kind of a damned if you do and damned if you don't, but at $4 a bag, and then you get the 25 bags, because then you have something in your hand, but they're paying it back. You know what I mean? They're paying it this way. So I understand, Terry, what you suggested that way. At $4 a bag, there's still going to be a major shortfall. All right. My concern is the best scenario is at a total tax levy at a $4 a bag with 25 bags mailed back, your total tax increase. No, this is, I hope I see this number correctly. Without fire, it's 2.2% total tax levy. All right. So at 2.2% at this day and age, when considering the cost of living and everything else, people are going to say, oh, they're going to nail me for another $200, but it's a lot better than 7.6 like Prince Edward County, from what I hear. All right. The other coin is that it's going to be a trial and error as you go through, because somebody's going to say, hey, why are you charging me when I'm already having my own disposal? All right. You have Red Tree that does their own grid or their own garbage. They do their own snow plowing, do everything else in their sites. So why? Hopefully they're not getting a bill. And what about Ken? Sorry, Katie, she's just chomping at the bit to answer this one. Oh, Christy, sorry. That if I have a dumpster on my farm, am I exempt from paying that extra surcharge because I'm not putting out bags? Like, what are you going to do with those scenarios with, you know what I mean? That they're not getting double dipped because they're already paying to get rid of their garbage.
We get back into the conversation of there's no exact perfect system here.
But I'm being the devil's advocate because they're going to be knock on their door and they're going to be in front of us, and Christy said they're going to have to answer that one. Do you have any answer to that one, Christy?
So for those situations with
Yeah.
multi-residential are not part of this program.
Yep.
Our contract only allows collection for residents up to 5 units. So after their collection, for those instances where people have bins and choose to do that, realistically, we're paying for, as part of this contract, we're paying for the truck to pass the and use up. And we're paying at this point that 70% of that 1.39 million is on the spot. So regardless whether people put garbage in or not, we're paying a significant amount for that vehicle to go by as part of the contract. So
Now,
the options presented
now, everything else that I said and all that, what I said, do I understand it correctly the way I'm reading this? Did you see any errors in what I said, the way I understand your numbers?
I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, the timing of this year, we're going to be at a shortfall because we're only charging from half of the year. Moving forward, I think if we were to do this special tax levy for a full year, we're going to see a significant difference, obviously, because we're reducing most of those costs. So, I mean, Nicole and I might have slightly different numbers. I apologize, but at $4 and for a special tax levy for residential property, or for a full year, we're recouping 1.5.
We could go ahead and, can I continue?
Yep, absolutely.
So therefore, yeah, we could go ahead and say, okay, $4, because anything over $4, it's going to be going the ditches. It's not going to be going get picked up. It's going to be in every trash compactor that there is happen to be available in any commercial area. But it's still, you're going to still have to, the taxpayer is still going to have to pay for it. You know what I mean? Sure, it'd be simpler to do that. But the point is, you won't generate the same volume. All right. is if you charge every resident. So it's damned if you do, and damned, you're irregardless, all comes from the taxpayer.
Yep.
So I'm gonna pay this amount, right? And it's just gonna be hidden, you know what I mean? Where you pay this amount, and if it's 2.2 or 2.79%, then with the extra money that you're gonna have to pay, that you're gonna get a surcharge on also for you, and you get your 25 bags back, you know, it's one or the other. What is the optics? You're still, the taxpayer is still, I'm still paying it, but this way here, it's kind of hidden. You don't really know where it is. Here it's explained, and you know what I mean? And it's done this way. So I much rather do it. I hate to say this. I know, Billy, you're gonna probably holler at, or Councilor Martin, you can probably holler at me, but I can't even say it. I hate extra carbon tax, but the point is, it all comes from the taxpayer.
Yep.
If you had a high tax, all right, based on everything else, but if you're 2.79, all right, compared to what everybody else around, or 2.2, whatever council decides, if that number was really inflated and then you nailed it on top of it, then I would say there's no way. All right. But since we've been more than honest in showing what we've cut and what we can't do and what we can do to have it this one, I much rather have it totally explained to people what they're paying for on this side. So as the mayor presented the 25 bags, and you have something in his hand, is like he said, I agree with, because it explains it better that way. That's just my own opinion. I know there's going to be some pitfalls and there's going to be some complaints, but at least I can justify it this way rather than hiding it this way and then not showing everybody the real true facts. That's my kind of take on it. Now, I'm always open to tell me that I'm out to lunch, but that's my feelings on the topic there.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Martin, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not that Councilor Shank doesn't make any sense. He does, but I'm still hung up on this fact that to me, you're hiding the cost of it by doing a shell game. I know Councilor Hicks is shaking her head. That's fine too. It's good that we look across the room at each other.
Sorry.
To me, we're hiding it more by doing it this way. I'm sorry, but I fundamentally disagree with it. But that's why we're here to debate it. So I'll just finally say it. I don't agree with putting cost of it and a surcharge on taxes. We've got enough surcharges. We don't need more. And Councilor Shank brought up the carbon tax, and he's correct about that. You know, the government charges us carbon tax at the pump, and then they mail us a check out. Well, some of us, usually it's the ones that don't drive that get the checks back, but that's another issue. So I'm just concerned that it's creating more confusion. And I don't think it's helping by doing this system, but that's just me.
Councilor Hicks.
Through your worship. So we're not just going to throw something in an envelope and send it out. There's going to be information provided to the public, correct? So your garbage collection and disposal costs the corporation X dollars per year. You are currently funding through your taxes X amount. You, taxpayer, generate the garbage. You, taxpayer, are now going to receive 25 bag tags for the remainder of 2023. You're going to have a tax levy directly for garbage on your tax bill to the tune of, what did I have here? I don't have it, $200 a year. The average household, not seniors, not single, not whatever. The average household puts out 1 bag a week. And if you have a child that wears disposable diapers, you're putting out probably closer to 2 or even maybe 3. Okay. My feeling is if it is explained correctly to the taxpayer, you're going to get your 25 tags. You no longer have to go to the store. You can stretch those out from now until Christmas of 2024 if you want to. In January or March of 2024, you're going to get 50 tags. And as Terry said, you can sell them any way you want if you're not going to use them. Share them with family members, whatever. But upfront, we get the money to cover the cost or the majority of the cost of the curbside collection. So I know we have to make a motion and vote at some point on this. I am in favor of putting it on the taxes, collecting the money upfront. If you are not generating, if we see less garbage in the ditches, and I live on a rural road, so I pick up my fair share. If you see less garbage being generated and put out for collection and it's not being tossed into a ditch somewhere, the cost maybe will go down. Maybe we can go with twice a week curbside collection eventually. Just a thought. We did it in Adolphustown and we saved a lot of money. Anyway, I mean, we can debate this all day long, but we still have the the capital budget to get through.
Yeah,
And
and we will,
so-
we'll sort it out. Go ahead, Councillor Shank. So.
No, Council Martin, though, the way I look at it is that let's say we go 2.2% and we add the other, okay? So, but if we don't, and we say, okay, we're not gonna do the 4 bags, we're gonna just keep it at $3, then we have a shortfall of, if I remember correctly, it was around 700,000 bucks or whatever. 1% tax increase raises only 140,000 bucks. So if you go ahead and then you had another 4% on it, and all of a sudden you're gonna say, okay, everybody's gonna pay 6%. You know what I mean? So you're still it's either they pay this way here or pay this way here. All right, because that shortfall still has to come up. With some of the efficiencies, and I know there's pros and cons to every argument, and I'm always open to, that's why we have debates, or different ideas, what's the best will work. And if this doesn't work, we find there's many problems, well, then we're gonna have to change it and see what else can go. But I would say try it for this year, because what I find is a major downfall in our curbside collection is our recycling, because 1 week it's glass, 1 week it's paper. And I'm going, is it paper or week, our glass this week? Oh, let's see what the neighbors have got out. And then we end up all being wrong. You know what I mean? It would be so nice if we could all have all recycling and maybe push more of the recycling that to down some of our tonnage, which will save a little bit more costs. You know what I mean? There's other things that we need to tweak, but we have a committee that can look into all that, but that's my thoughts. Maybe I explained it a little bit better, or you'd still disagree. We agree to disagree. It's just that I'm a major proponent of extra tax, but the point is the way I explained it, I think I know there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of pushback, but at least it's explained clear, having it this way than that way, rather than having a 6% tax increase and it's all hidden, then have this, and this is what you've got. I don't know if that'll help.
Councillor Nori.
Just on a little different vein, I think some of the wording is what the confusion is. It's a separate column on the tax bill that you're prepaying for your bag tags, period.
Yeah.
Instead of going to Richmond Variety or Town Hall, you paid for them. And I know it's a levy and people don't like that, but you're prepaying for your bag tags, that's all. What you do with them is your choice. What a landlord does with them, I'm not going to control them as a government agency. We shouldn't be. They should be adult and give it to their tenants, but that's up to them. We don't need a lot more control of government, just information as you're going to send out. Hopefully do the honorable thing, but we're just having them prepay for the bag tags, that's all.
In a nutshell, that's what it is. We're asking them to prepay for bag tags. They may buy more than what they need. They may buy less than what they need, but we're asking them to prepay, and they have something in their hand that, at least with the carbon tax, you don't get a bag of carbon with it when you do it, right? So at least with this, you would get something in your hand, right? Anyways, that's, go
Can
ahead,
I
Bill.
just say one more thing?
Yep.
So with the bag tag, with the tax levy,
Yeah.
we're still not collecting the amount. We're still going to have cost to the general taxpayer, correct?
Yes, right now, yes.
So we're collecting costs 3 different ways to pick my bag of garbage up. In other words.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I need to. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Your worship, you can make a couple of points of clarification. There's been a couple of comments about people paying for service that may not necessarily use it, get it on the first. Depending on the program, the bylaw. So currently at the $3 bag tag, that's paying for. So your bag tag cost was revenue neutral. Then you wouldn't have people in other rate classes who are not eligible. So people who are not rate by law. Whatever that difference is, the bag. Rate classes. Paying for it.
Very, very, very much so. So. Okay, we are going to have to just make a decision on this, but we don't need to do that right now, I don't think, right? We can continue on.
Yes, we can continue.
Okay. Oh, sorry, sorry, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Through you, your worship. I'd like to, if we're gonna look back at this, I'd like to see what it would look like. I mean, we have to raise our prices on our bag tags. There's no 2 ways about it. At the end of the day, there's one taxpayer, there's one set of monies coming in. However you divide it up, collecting it 1 way, 2 ways, 5 ways, we're still gonna collect money. So our tax rate increase is probably the lowest compared to any other municipality around us. What would happen if we just put it at $4 a bag, left it up to the individuals to go to their stores to buy their bags and still had a little bit of an increase on the basic taxes all the way around? Understand what Peter says, like, and I don't care with me one way or the other, my taxes are gonna go up $200 to pay for bag tags that I'll never use. And I'm not the only one. You get all of a sudden, you get all these landlords and stuff that own property that live in Toronto or Ottawa or US or whatever, they're gonna get the bag tag sent to them. Are they really gonna come up and hand it out to their tenants? Possibly. Good chance not. I'd like to just see a straight $4 a bag tag increase. And then if we need to bump our general tax up, need to bump it up. I mean, nothing is for nothing. And this is the problem. We've spent so long of trying to be big brothers. We need to start looking at other things here. If we have to have a tax increase, much as I hate to say it, I know Mike Shank's gonna sit there and not agree with me, but I mean, we gotta pay for what we have. That's all my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thanks. If there's nothing else at this point, we'll move on.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, again, on the bottom of this slide, this is where we have also included the cost of an additional firefighter in these scenarios. And just to touch back, so if we were to go an option of moving the bag tags to $4, but running the program as is, that increase for this year with the additional firefighter would become 4.78. Before the firefighter would be 4.19.
4.19 was just increasing the bag tag and not adding another levy on people's taxes.
That is correct.
That's not adding another fire.
Correct.
Okay,
So for capital items, what we are presenting is the list of items. So we have the completion of North Fred Sports Courts, the liftgate door on the home hardware pad. And sorry, I'm just going to back up. So we are looking for a $35,000 ask for the North Fred Sports Courts, a $50,000 ask for the liftgate on the door at the home hardware rink, which is currently a safety risk. We're looking for $50,000 for fire bunker gear. We are looking for $100,000 for town hall rehabilitation, and this was touched on in our last regular session of council in regards to how we want to see town hall transformed and make it open for the public. There's $11,000 ask for a sander spreader for Parks and Recreation. And then looking for $25,000 for the Via Rail train station for improvements that are needed there. As at the beginning of the meeting, there was the amendment to remove capital item for sidewalk plow. What town staff would ask right now is that council consider moving that portion to a contribution to reserve. So the total change for capital items would be $241,000. And we would request that council consider a $200,000 contribution to reserve.
Okay, how do we want to do this, Nicole, or how do we want to do this, Jessica? Do we want to break down those things and do we need motions on each one of them? How do you want to do it?
So through your worship, what we need a motion for is anything that is going to change the presentation that is attached to your agenda. So if you're going to have that $200,000 be a contribution to reserve instead of a capital expense, we need a motion for that. If you are going to change anything around the bag tags beyond selling them for $3, we need a motion that very clearly says what you're doing there. And if there are any other desired changes, we need a motion that clearly says what the change is, what the dollar is, and how it's being funded. But other than that, you don't need a motion for each specific capital item unless you want to pull something, because by default, they're all included in the budget that has been presented.
Okay, and that's, I guess, will get me into the next conversation is that I think we may probably want to, is with respect to the capital items, is to separate each one and decide whether we want to leave it in the budget or we want to take it out. Would I be correct in saying that? Or unless everybody is content with leaving all the capital items that have been mentioned in, but I'm sensing that maybe that's not the case. Councillor Shank.
Yeah. Now, we've discussed a lot of those items anyway, and one is separated. I'd like to ask, what was taken out of our roads budget? Like, they had a cut, maybe some of the hard top surfacing, you know what I mean? What was taken out? All right. What was, just so everybody understands how much, what was cut out of our capital, all right, for maintaining and looking after some of our roads. As you understand, we've had some issues with some of the tar and chip. From what I understand, a lot of that might be warranty, you know what I mean? And they're addressing some of those concerns that residents have brought up. But at the same time, I just don't want to fall far behind in any of our road maintenance. Like, I can understand taking a hit for maybe a little bit of a year and just getting through what we can, but I just want to have it explained to me that, all right, well, we wanted to do this and this and this because these roads are really bad. And you know, these residents are going to phone us anyway if those roads aren't done, but at least then I can understand that, okay, what was actually taken out because everybody cut, you know what I mean? That they can explain saying, hey, you know, we can't do this because this is going to be a tight year, you know, and so I can have something to explain to the ratepayers. Is that all right to ask that? Something like that?
Well, and what I was going to suggest is if we stay focused with respect to the capital items, I think what we need to do is let's take a look at each of the capital items and decide whether we want to leave those capital items in. And if we don't, and we want to take them out, that is going to provide us with an opportunity, I think, to that. If there's savings there, can we turn those savings into something else, which may answer your question, I'm thinking, Mike, but
the only question I have on all of them was that I needed to be refreshed because it was 2 or 3 meetings ago that we had discussed the Via Rail station. That was the only one that I just needed an up to date on. All the other ones, I totally understand what they wanted and why they wanted it.
okay,
For me.
for you, yep. And I think Nicole's gonna comment.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to answer Councillor Shank's question. So in regards to the roads and what we're doing, so we are still using our OCIF grant money and our gas tax money to cover our double and single surface treatment, as well as a portion of the East Street reconstruction project. So Palace Road has come off at this time, but the rest of the road reconstruction has been left as is for capital work.
Okay. Was there any other roads that they were going to do this year that now they're not doing, Peter?
Your worship,
No, no, operating capital items, like, you know, we were gonna go ahead and we were gonna say, we were gonna, beyond the OCF funding and the other gas tax that you're getting, the 1.5 million, I think it is. Yeah, we were gonna do this road, but since this is our constraint, we can't do this, and this.
Through your worship, just the projects that were slated for this year that were cut, there was initially, I don't have the total rate here, but about 5 million. It was Palace Road. There was a section of the Palace Road between Center Street and County Road Highway 2. There's the bridge, the embankments and the guide rails there. It was repaving the approaches and reestablishing those barriers that are giving way and falling over. We did some temporary repairs there, concrete barriers on the one leg of it and the one side. We had a price of 750,000 there. There was bridge rehab and Selby, the deck seals and bearings needed to be replaced on that bridge. We had about 100,000 for that. There was a proposal for South Shore Road, the section between 25 and 8. That was going to be a proposal for this year. We pulled back. A bridge replacement, box culvert replacement on Homestead Road. It's turned to granular now, and it will remain granular until we have the funds to replace those 2 box culverts. And then it could essentially go back to surface stream or whatever was had, but those bridges were also pulled out for replacement this year. And then the only other thing from the roads budget was a 30,000 for a GPS unit as well. That's what was in the original one you guys would have seen at the first meeting.
Let's stay focused here with what's at hand for now. Let's take a look. I would feel more comfortable. Let's take a look. Let's break down each of the items and capital items, make sure that they're still, again, everybody's content with that. And then we'll go from there. Why don't we do it that way? Because that's where we're at anyway. So I think it's best that we do that just so that everybody is on the same page and we know where we're going with it, right? So. And all of those items, I think, Nicole, are they not, and they're under supplemental budget sheets?
Yes, the budget enhancement sheets should be included in
So
there.
if we go to those budget enhancement sheets, we can see each one of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
6 items. Why don't we do that? Keep this clear. Counselor Hicks.
Counselor Shank and I were just having a quiet
Sidebar?
sidebar here.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, what we are dealing with right now is the capital portion of the annual budget.
So these items through you, Mr. Mayor, are the capital asks that are required from tax base.
Right. So when we look at page 17.
Yes.
And I look at 2.2% increase without fire scenario to 25 tags at $4 a tag. That is for capital.
Yes.
We still have to go through the operating portion of the budget, and there will be an increase there as well, a tax increase of whatever this.
No,
this is
that's all included.
That's all included.
So the
in this?
line that shows capital of 471, that less the 200 that we talked about moving to contribution to reserve.
Yep.
That represents this slide of capital items we're talking about on page 18.
Okay.
So the 2.2% is inclusive of operational and capital ask for this year.
Okay. Now I understand.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Pinson.
Just to be clear for council, so what we've done here and around the tax rate, which is relatively low, you'll notice the capital items that we've included in here are those things that we think that need to be done this year. There's no contributions to reserves purposely, and there's no big capital spend. So we will expect that as we go through 2023, when we come back for 2024, those tax increases could potentially be higher because we have to start putting money away for future obligations.
So Deputy Mayor Calver.
So I'm still hung up on this. So if we just went with a straight $4 a bag increase, that's going to put us at a tax rate of 4.19%. And that's total all-in tax increase of 4.19%.
That is correct.
What if, because we're still well below any other municipality around us, what if we went to say a 4.9 increase and the $4 bag tag? Would that leave us any money to put into reserves or?
Yeah, we can play with that number to get us to an amount that we can put to reserves.
I mean, I
Based
think
on
any
what council's
taxpayer,
comfortable with.
based on what's going on around us, it's going to be happy if we can stay under the 5%. So I mean, if we run at 4.9, increase the bag tags to the people using them for $4 a tag, you're making up a little bit here and a little bit there. And I don't know, it's just.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if we add an additional $100,000 contribution to reserve, that brings us to 4.92% overall tax increase.
Thank you.
Do we have the opportunity? Can we look at the capital items? This is going to keep me happy. Let's keep me happy for just a moment. Let's look at the capital items and ensure that we are all on the same page with respect to the capital items.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm having fun now. Completion of the North Fred Sports Court. And we do have a budget enhancement sheet supplement. As we have it in front of us, are we all good? Do we have any questions with respect to that? Are we all good with the fact that we can leave that in the 2023 budget?
What was that cost again?
It is,
35,000,
sorry,
$35,000.
at the PPE one?
No, this is North Fred Courts.
Sorry, North Fred, sorry. North Fred is the $35,000. Yeah, for acrylic surfacing and line painting. Are we all good? Are we content with that? Good, perfect. We can leave that there. How about the, did we do the PPE replacement? But that is part of that, right? Am I not? We have,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be the bunker gear, the fire bunker gear.
on the capital items. Okay, so the bunker gear, it's in the budget enhancement sheet as protective PPE replacement to the tune of, by the looks of it, for 2023, we have $50,000. Are we good with that? I don't know how much playroom we have with that because it looks like some of the equipment is already expired.
You can't argue with that.
Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, your worship, through you. Did we not have a reserve for this? Or have we depleted the reserves that we've been putting in? Or is it coming from those reserves?
Well, through your worship,
Go ahead, Chief.
through your worship, we believed we had a reserve. And I think Nicole can speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it wasn't a segregated reserve. It was just a portion of working capital. So at this time, essentially, no.
Okay, thank you. And I understand why. Thank you.
Okay, and is everybody good with that one? So we can leave that one alone and not touch that one. Perfect. Moving down the list. So we've done the North Fred Sports Court. The home hardware rink lift gate replacement to the tune of $50,000 and $50,500. Are we all good with that? I think we did hear about that gate and I think but I'll listen. Are we good with that? Yes, no?
Yes.
We don't have the one quote on the gate. One company that fixes this.
From my understanding, and I guess it's not an experienced one, but from my understanding is that the only company that could do it is the company that installed it, and they haven't got the ability to install the gate that's in there. They have to rebuild the gate. They have to make it, I think it's either 2 feet smaller or 2 feet bigger.
Oh, so it's a complete.
Yeah, they don't have the ability to simply come in and repair it, from what I understand, and so they have to rebuild it. And actually, if my memory serves me right with respect to this, is I think the one on the Goodyear side probably needs to be replaced now, but it is and nowhere near as dire need as this one does. So this one here, I can just tell you from personal experience, it doesn't go up square and it doesn't come down square.
Play hockey, I don't.
In any event, if that's helpful, again, that's from my unexperienced view of it, but and we'll probably see the one for the home hardware next year is my guess, but we'll worry about that in 2024. So do we have any other questions or comments with respect to that? And are we good with that one?
Yep.
Okay. The train station. And I know we've probably talked about this one. There's a total of 24,625, and we can see the budget enhancement sheet in front of us. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns, or anything else with respect to that? Councilor Shank.
No, it was, we're gonna renegotiate some of the.
So through your worship, to Councillor Shank, I think we should talk about that one specifically.
Yep.
Only because this puts it in the public domain for some further discussion. So where we are right now, and Brent can correct me if I'm wrong, we've had those doors come open when trains are scheduled to arrive. What happens is people walk into those places for a place to rest and they basically tear the crap out of that building. So we end up fixing it all the time. We do get a revenue amount, I think of $7,000 from Via Rail for that building. We've had a couple of conversations. We've continued the contract, I think for only 6 months for a year, to have this conversation about whether we really need that train station to be open. So I think what we would want to do based on this discussion is go to the public and say, hey, does anybody, we don't see that a lot of people use that train station. And if it's not being used as a train station, we could probably cut down on some of the expenditures in this.
Okay, that's why I was
Right.
asking. Yeah.
But what I didn't want to do is simply ignore it and then go back to VIA and say, so I think the further discussion is what I would like to see happen is approve that money to that amount. We would have a discussion further on as we go through this year as to whether this council wants to keep that place open as a train station or whether we could use it for something else. And if we don't spend all that money, we'll come back to council, say, here's some extra money that we put back in reserves.
Councilor Pennell.
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Pinson. If we were to eliminate the use of the train station for train business, for passenger business, would that in any way interrupt our train service? Would VIA still be okay to stop here or willing to stop here?
Through your worship, I think the way the train works right now is if there are no people that have actually booked a ticket, then the train does not stop. I think anecdotal evidence is that anybody who goes to that train station that books a ticket likely sits in their car or just waits outside. So I think what we'd like to do is be able to see, can we use that building for something else? Can we offer it up to the community? Can we make better use of it to get more activity such that it doesn't get vandalized all the time?
But with the agreement that we have with Via Rail to even stop at Napanee.
Indications from Via Rail are that, and I can't speak for Via Rail, is that they would have no serious objections if it was not closed, but it could still stop.
If it was not closed, or what if it was closed?
If it was closed, they could still stop,
Okay.
right? So you separate the two. One is stop if you have a ticket.
Mhm.
The second issue is whether there's a train station or not there,
Right, okay.
because
Thank
you
you.
would still have the platform.
Thank you.
And realistically, the repairs or the costs of the alarm and access, this is something that we need to do or would do no matter what the use of the building would be going forward.
I think initially what we'd want to do is rehab the building such that it's not destroyed or in ill repair. Then we would figure out what kind of door we need on it. So we may not need a door with a timer if we don't have a train stopping. It may be a lock door, which is much cheaper.
Okay.
And the alarm system, et cetera. So we would phase it that way. But I think we want to repair it, put it in.
Right. Okay.
So I would see that as an initial agreed upon amount. We would come back to council probably in mid-year and say, these are the discussions we've had with VIA. And I think we would want to put something out to the public to get their impression in terms of what we're doing and what we could potentially use it for.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Pennell.
Thank you, worship, through you. Just one more thing about this. If we were to lock the door today, we'd be in violation of the agreement that we currently have in place with VIA.
Yeah. Yes and no would be relatively easy to fix. So it would be not lock the door right now, it would be have another discussion with VIA. Right? we're in communications with VRL.
Okay, so we're all good with this then? Okay. Sander Salter spreader to the tune of $11,000 in the 2023 budget. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns with respect to that? And are we good with leaving it where it is? And I think we've covered them all, have we not, Nicole?
The only additional through you, Mr. Mayor, would be the town hall, the $100,000, which we do not have a budget enhancement sheet. That was part of Mr. Zatterberg's presentation at council on Tuesday.
Right. Do we want to have any further conversation with respect to that since we are here? Do we need to have any further conversation? Go ahead, Councilor Fidel.
Thank you, through your worship. I was just wondering with why the number was 100,000, and if that is something that if we're at that height that it sets precedence that we could apply for more, or what happens if we maybe ask for a little bit less. And I was just wondering if we could have Mr. Zatterberg talk to us about the amount.
Through you, your worship, yes, we could ask for less, but what we're trying to do is come up with a number that makes, so when we apply for grants, then it becomes a substantial amount of money. So we can actually make some progress on this building. For example, we know that putting in a gender neutral washroom on the main floor that could be $50,000 to $80,000 by the time you're finished that project. We know that we have to replace or start looking at a way to make the steps to the front of the building secure. We don't have an estimate of that cost. We met with the ministry representative yesterday and went over what we were thinking and what our ask was going to be for council. And they agreed with our strategy behind this, which is that we secure a significant amount of money to begin these changes so that we can actually get people using the building, which then establishes a need by the community. So it's easier to get the larger grants later on to complete the $5 million project.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so we are all still good with the $100,000 with respect to the town hall rehabilitation. Okay, so we're good with that. So, Madam Clerk, we don't need a resolution with respect to the items that are in the presentation,
That's correct.
with the exception of,
Yes, with the exception that we should get a motion that council move that $200,000 from the capital item request to a transfer to reserves.
and this would be the appropriate time to do that, I'm guessing.
It certainly could be, yes.
It certainly appears to be. So I would look for a motion with respect to what Jessica just said.
So through your worship, the proposed motion would be that council support the capital items proposed with the exception of removing the $200,000 designated for the sidewalk plow and placing that item as a transfer to reserves instead. So there is no net change to your total revenue that needs to be raised through taxes, but you're setting that money aside in reserves instead.
Is everybody good with respect to that motion? Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Nori. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. I think that's the only one we need to do with respect to this slide, is it?
For this
Madam
slide,
Clerk?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Brunel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, if we were able to go back to slide number 3 for a moment. It is the one that's labeled request from last session.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, my clicker just stopped working, so we're just waiting for the slide to advance. It's frozen.
So my question is, we've went through this, we haven't talked about the Wi-Fi cameras but I don't see anything in this report about the analysis of cost benefit and switching to a 24-hour firefighter model. Is that coming up or did we miss that?
So through your worship to Councillor Pennell, what we would like to do is take a broader approach to staffing in general. And the chief and I have agreed that the 24-hour model would be piece of that. So I think where he's at right now, to add another one right now based on schedules and the rest of it might be a little bit premature, but we would come back with a fulsome analysis and talk not just cost, but retention, capacity. I think, Chief, we will have the large part of the fire master plan done at that time. So I think it would give council a much more holistic view of the fire department and requirements, if that's correct, Chief.
That's correct, through your worship. To your request, Councillor, we did the quick numbers. We're at about, just so I can throw it out, so it might give you some food for thought. We're at about $588 a call right now. Moving forward with a 24-hour shift, that would bring it down to about a $375. So there's a substantial savings. But again, we do have some other issues to work through right now before we could even look at a 24-hour shift, because this late in the year, just adding one firefighter, we still have vacations, we still have some stat days. It would incur much more overtime than we would save in the next 6 to 8 months. So the firefighter will help us. It will get us, to a better position with some of the other methodologies and modeling that we will get out of our fire master plan and the CRA, which is mid-April. The CRA fire master plan is mid-August, and it's on track to be done by then.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
And through you, Mr. Mayor. So on my next slide, let me get back to the end here. Thank you, Kylie, for your assistance there. So we also have a budget enhancement sheet that was submitted around the downtown Wi-Fi. So currently right now in the budget numbers that are presented, this was including removing of the downtown Wi-Fi and cameras. So if council's wishes are to continue with this service, this would also need to be added back into our budget.
So let's talk about the downtown Wi-Fi then. I think this is a good opportunity to do that. Yes, no?
If I may, your worship. So what we've done, and Dave isn't here to speak to it. So what we want to do is separate the Wi-Fi from the downtown cameras if we can possibly. First of all, would be to decide whether council wishes to maintain cameras in the downtown core. If we do, I think there's additional technologies that could probably be used. So we'd like to look at that as a separate item. I think generally, anecdotally, we think that the downtown Wi-Fi isn't used that much and it's not that strong anyway. And there's other places that actually have Wi-Fi. But I think the cameras are something that we could probably invest in. So we'd like to take that as a separate piece and let's see what we do with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So put it this way, instead of just carrying on with something that we think is substandard, let's, based on need, try and make it so that it actually works properly.
Yep, agree. I read it.
We do have that budget enhancement sheet, and it looks like for 2023, it's somewhere in the middle or in the area of 15,000. Am I reading that right? 13 for annual support and maintenance, and the ISP cost is $2,000.
Yes, that is correct.
And
Yeah, go ahead. Counselor.
that's as is, to continue with it as is.
Correct.
Functioning.
Yes.
What's everybody's thoughts on that? Are we good with that? Do we want to have further discussion on that? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Well, I think it's very important we keep the cameras downtown. I think right now, are they working on Wi-Fi or are they?
So I think as we start peeling back, and it's related to, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, but I think it's related to 12 Market with, go ahead.
Through your worship, it's actually related to both buildings that are listed as surplus. We have equipment in 12 that operates the system, and we have on the antenna of the old fire hall, we have It's a point-to-point system. So if we sell those two buildings, there's going to be some work to keep the system up and running.
Okay, Counselor Hicks.
Through your worship. So the buildings are listed. The system is still running. If one and or both buildings sell, the system is no longer operable.
Yeah, so I think what we want to do through your worship was actually go to cameras that went right without having to go back to servers that are located somewhere else. I think that's where Dave's mind is at right now,
Right,
is
but-
try and get them so to go right to the cloud.
Is it possible to just leave it as is? We may not incur the full $15,000 for 2023, but it gives us something to use right
Yes.
now until the buildings
Yes.
sell. And if and when the buildings sell, maybe we can write something in that the antenna needs to stay for 4 months or whatever, until we have a better idea of what it's going to cost to improve it.
So I think, and I know Peter wanted to make the point, in some of these analyses, you know, we've asked departments to cut back on a bunch of stuff. So similar to, you know, the town hall to the via train station, if we find that there are changes to this budget based on requirements, we will come back to council and say, things have changed, right? So we don't want this to be, here's your budget done. We're not budget anymore. As things change, we will come back to council and hopefully be able to manage within to fund things where we have to.
Counselor Shank.
So just to make it short. So I agreed with the very last under your recommendation, investigate, bring forth proposals, implementation of a secure, robust, more refined camera solution, because sooner or later, this other properties are going to sell. So you're gonna, that's what I agreed to. So I'm trying to explain to the rest of council, no sense putting good money after bad if you have an old system, you know, because of this and all the other buildings. So we're gonna go ahead. I totally agree with Deputy Mayor Calver that we definitely need some, you know, some security downtown with some of the problems that we have there. So as long as we're getting this done, so we're proactive looking at it. Do you have any idea what the cost is for any of these new systems?
Not at this point in time.
I just wanted to know if it would affect the budget, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about, may I ask also, I know this is off topic and so Mayor will probably keep me in line again, but which I need, is the telephone system in the town hall now? Is this in the budget that we can get that fixed?
So through your worship, another thing that we're going to come back to after we've done the service delivery review in terms of how we deliver services at town hall. I think it's in the calendar, July, August, we're going to come back to council with an information technology piece, which we'll talk about phone systems, IT, and how we want to rationalize those. So there could be some savings, perhaps not this year, but on the expiration of one of the two contracts next year.
Okay, so just as long as that's being fixed, you know, and also in the budget is our website. Is that in the budget?
So these are all good questions. So what we've done is we've started an internal process. And of course, these are always difficult things to sort of chew off on the corner of your desk around managers to try and rationalize that web service to make sure that it does make sense. But I think we've gone out to the public asking them for their input. We may get to a point where it's too much work to do properly, where we may have to go next year and go to our web services folks and say, here, redo this. Or we're going to try and do it internally this year.
Just to make it user friendly. So
yes, it's top of mind what we're doing.
And continue.
Absolutely.
All right, Nicole, this is for you. Because there was the amount of money that's been spent in the last 3 or 4 years. You know, and there's like what we had, what was brought up at the last budget meeting. I just like to know, and I think council would like to know, because we're going to ask this question, where that money went. All right. So eventually, all I'm saying is, as long as we have it, okay, this is how many millions of dollars, because when I go ahead and do the numbers, and there was a lot of, and what the total value of all the properties that were sold also, you know, there was a lot of money and a lot of property was sold. So therefore, like where I just like to know where the money had gone, and what to services, what capital projects it went on. That's all.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, in a staff report that will be coming at our next regular session of council, we will be going through a lot of that budget variance analysis
All right.
and telling the story of previous year.
It just, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? Madam Clerk, well, first of all, are we all content with this report, this supplementary report with the $15,000? First of all, are we? Yeah. And I don't believe we need a motion with respect to that because it's included. Am I catching on to this? Dave?
So through your worship, this one actually is not included. So if you would like us to maintain the current system through the rest of this year or until such date as the buildings are sold and we need to figure out something else, we would want a motion to add that $15,000 back into the operating budget.
We would be looking for a motion with respect to adding this back into the operating budget.
That is correct. And if you wanted to, through your worship, you could also add that direction that you endorse the recommendation that we be investigating an alternative camera
So make that motion.
solution.
Councillor Shank will make that motion. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Calver, is there any further comments, questions, or concerns? All the question, all in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, where do we go from here, Nicole?
So I know that our general manager of infrastructure would like to speak about some of the changes to the roads operational budget.
That would be Peter?
Yep.
Yep. Come on. Are you going to just do it from there, Pete, then? Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be brief, your worship. Through your worship, I just want to touch base, maybe some of the higher points of some of the cuts. As the CAO mentioned, if any of those cuts put us in jeopardy to maintain minimum maintenance standards, we'll come back and ask for additional funds so we don't breach the minimum maintenance standards. But there will be some, there's kind of, maybe I'll categorize it in three categories. So there's some of these cuts that will be visible. You will see them. There'll be some that may create complaints, and there'll be some that may have a little bit of lasting implications to it as well. So I'll give a couple examples of some things that we'll have to really manage closely. There'll be no noxious weed spraying. So you may see a negative side of that long term. There's reductions in gravel applications to some of our gravel roadways. Huron area, there'll be no drainage improvements in there included in this budget. So you may receive complaints on that. Crack sealing, there's no crack sealing in this budget. So keeping water out of a road base is critical. So that's one of those could be longer term implications. Reductions in hardtop maintenance and tree cutting. As I mentioned earlier, we will make sure we maintain minimum maintenance standards, but those cuts there will be an impact to those, just so council's aware of those. And stormwater as well. There's reductions in stormwater.
Sorry, I'll ask you a question before I ask mine. Do we have any numbers associated with all that stuff, Peter?
Through your worship, you like a total cost of what the cuts were out of there?
Yeah.
You had that number, didn't you?
I did a brief, like of the cuts that, yeah, every specific one we have, like for granular roads, for instance, grading, there's $20,000 there. Staff had come up there a few years back with a gravel road maintenance program. We'd like to reach eventually every 3 to 4 years, a granular road would receive gravel. At this point in time, the budget we have in there, every 23 and a half years, a gravel road will receive another piece of gravel on it from the time it is now for the budget amount we have in there. Crack sealing has been completely erased. There's about $40,000 there between patching materials and our crack sealing program that's gone. It's roughly, just with what Peter had mentioned, there's about $110,000 from those core activities that won't happen anymore through gravel, dust control, stormwater, ditching. And some of them, we have enough money to do the stormwater maintenance program this year. We're legislated by the Minister of Environment to create a operation and maintenance policy and to prove within that policy that we have a maintenance plan and we're funding it. Right now, we have no money to do any stormwater maintenance. So these are programs that Yeah, they've been cut out. Or greatly reduced.
Counselor Pennell.
Thank you through your worship. Jeff, could you please just talk a little bit more about the grading again? So you said if we were to stay on the current level of monies for in this budget, then every dirt road, every gravel road would get more gravel down every 32 years?
Every 23 years, like right now for our granular maintenance, we have a budget. Oh geez, it was cut down by $20,000 this year, but originally we wanted 77,000 on, and in projection, we need to be somewhere in the area of about 200,000, but we're like to be around 150. That would put us every 10 years at this point in time. But yeah, the amount of monies we have this year in the budget would do 3 kilometers of road out of
Okay.
the 70 kilometers we have.
And that's with new granular. But what about grading? What
Grading, we own the grader, so we'll keep cycling the grading as needed.
Okay. Will this budget today, as we see it today, will that affect any grading on any granular roads?
It won't affect the grading.
Okay, but
It'll affect the amount of granular we put on. So as limestone is soft and as it gets worked and driven over, it will break down. And when people talk about driving over muddy roads or whatever, and berms build up, you need to top them up over time. And yeah, we can do 3, usually around every 3 to 4 years, depending on some of our higher volume roads like Meach Road, Buttermilk Falls Road, and those roads, they receive more attention because there's more annual day traffic travel over it versus some of our lower volume roads, they can stretch out even further.
Okay, sorry, just one more.
Yep, go ahead, Dave.
So if you mentioned something about $20,000, if we were to increase the budget by $20,000 for granular roads, what is that going to get me?
We get you a couple more kilometers, but we're still not going to be there. That was the thing. Like we made cuts to already under budgeted line items this year. We needed to keep adding to that to get to a service level that I believe we would need to get to more of an industry standard. But these already tight budget lines received additional cuts.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Deputy Mayor Falconer.
Yeah, through your worship. So if you're talking about eliminating the crack sealing program. Okay. What was that part of the budget? Like, what would that cost? Because if we eliminate that entirely, sure, we're going to save a little bit this year, but it's 5 years down the road, that's going to cost us a pile more as it starts to wash out underneath and so on and so forth. But I say when we maybe look at trying to raise our budget a little higher than the 4%, because we start taking stuff like that out and we're going to be in trouble.
I think that was 40,000. My numbers, if I wrote my numbers down right.
Yeah. And well, there's our patching materials were cut back to as well on top of that. So it was $40,000 in total was cut out between patching materials and $25,000 we had in budget for crack sealing.
Okay. Is there any other questions of Pete or Jeff? Hey, Councilor Shank.
This is to rest the council. This is just my thoughts on hearing that. As soon as you let water into any roads, and if you don't patch and seal, and if their budget's that tight that they can't steal from that to fix those potholes or patch it correctly. How do I say this correctly? Got to find 40 grand to go ahead and do it. But you know what? I sure don't want to have a student to go ahead and do patch a road that takes 4 hours, like 8 hours to patch 3, 20 holes, because last year I had people, I wasn't even on council, showing me a video of, if they would have went any slower, they'd be in reverse. You know what I mean? The students, you know what I mean? So I agree with filling in your potholes and your patching any of the holes or anything else like that. I don't think they should be cut, but at the same token is when I see our full-time guys going, they're working, you know, but when I saw the students out there, I don't think they've ever used a shovel before in their life. But it wasn't my responsibility and I wasn't on council then, so, and you know, 20 years ago, when I hired 20 kids, 18 were great, 2 were duds. I hired 20 kids today. It's not the same scenario.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
There we go. That's all I'm saying, but that's do the best what you got, Jeff, but and Peter, but that's is there any way we can get 40 grand and put it into the patch and roads?
That's, you took the words right out of my mouth. At this point, I think, I'm not sure where Nicole wants to go with respect to it, but I think we can put this stuff in our mind that we've heard here now, see how the rest of the budget goes, and then see what the numbers are, as Deputy Mayor Calver says, see where the numbers are, and let's just take a look at it, see where we're at with it, I guess. I mean, at this point. But let's see if we can narrow down that number that we're really all happy with, or that we can live with, and then move forward from that. Just see if there's any flexibility there, I guess, is maybe the best way of thinking about it. Am I on the right track, or am I completely off base?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think that makes sense. Based on our presentation, we now have to circle back to council's wishes on what we want to do with bag tags.
Yep, and I know that that's probably where we're going to probably end the day or get very close to it. Does anybody need a 15 or 20-minute break before we get into those conversations? Okay, what will 20 minutes do it, or do you want a little bit longer?
15 will work for me.
Okay, well, let's give another 5 minutes. Let's say 20 minutes. We'll be back at 12:20, and then we'll jump into a robust conversation with respect to bag tags and garbage. Sound good? Okay, we'll see you back in about 20 minutes. Thank you. Hey, Kylie. Okay, welcome back, everyone, and thanks for being patient with us. We are going to dive right into garbage and bag tags once again. So, Nicole, or do we just want to start right into a conversation? I think we've got the budget scenarios in front of us. They're going to give us a fairly good idea as to where we can go with them, what we want to do. And does anybody want to start? Or do you want me to? Okay.
Go for it.
We'll go in a bit of a different direction. I know that, and anybody that's been watching or listening, I know that I sort of suggested at one point the $4 bag tags and getting the bag tags sent or added to the taxes. It's not going to get us to a complete cost recovery. However, it will get us, I think, a little bit closer to cost recovery than we are right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll stick to what my suggestions are is the bag tags, 25 for the first half of the last half of this year, 50 for next year at a cost of $4 per bag tag. The only thing that maybe we could look at in my world or venture away from where we are is that you pay $4. And I know that I probably brought it up in our last budget meeting, but if you pay upfront your $4 a bag tag and you get 25 cents to you, should we reward our taxpayers by paying the $4 a bag tag up front, and they get a benefit to be paying the $4, and then the bag tags that we sell at our storefronts at 99 Advance at the corner stores, and put a price of them as $4.50 or another number that would be conducive to what everybody's saying. So I start the conversation off there, and obviously we will listen to hear what everybody else has to say. And I would like to be able to come to some kind of a conclusion. I think we have to resolve the bag tag issue, because that's the sticking point between getting this budget done and not getting it done. So Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for starting this off, because it helps us out with where the conversation is going to go. I'm just wondering if we take your analogy of rewarding the taxpayer of having it, we reward the people having it on the taxes. If we could run the numbers quickly to have that scenario at $3 a bag tag, and then if we have it in the store, and then that way, at least it keeps us where it is now, instead of increasing it, but it will increase it because it'll be on more. What am I right by saying? It'll be on more tax bills, if you will, than what the current people who are buying the bag tags are. If we could just run that scenario.
I think we've got that column in our chart, do we not?
Yes, the only change would be some of the additions that we've already made earlier. So that if we add back in the $15,000 for Wi-Fi, and I've also put in here, just because it's been tossed around, I can pull it back out, the additional $40,000 for public works. Mailing out at $3 a bag tag would bring our overall increase in at 3.94%.
3.94. Okay, thank you.
And at $4, do we have that number?
At $4, it would be 2.6%.
2.6. And of course, it's difficult. We could ballpark. It may be difficult to see what the walk-in bag tag sales would be, because we really don't know at this point, because we've sort of instituted a new system, so to say, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to weigh in? Yes, no? Yeah, no. Yeah, okay, we'll go Councillor Shank, and then Deputy Mayor Calver.
I'm just pulling up some of the paperwork from beforehand. The point is, scenario A was leave solid waste operating as is, the bag tag program, resulting in business being subsidized by the tax base in the amount of $848,000. That was our original, where we came to all this. Now, Deputy Mayor Calver and I might have a difference of opinion, but we're going to still, I'd like to hear what.
Yeah, and we will.
The Deputy Mayor has to say, and then I'll see.
Yeah. Okay,
That's it.
Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Thank you, your worship. I still like the idea of going up to a 4.9% increase on overall taxes. That's going to allow us to put some money back into reserves for if we have emergencies come up or whatever. It still puts us well below any of our neighbors. Put the bag tags at $4 a tag and have an overall tax increase of 4.9.
Counselor Nori.
Thank you, your worship. I like your idea of $3 for the mailouts, $4 for anybody else. And I think we should be like the county. They're hitting us for 4.8. If we want to go up, we go 4.8. That was an easy sell for us. We're equal to each other. I mean, 31% of our tax base goes to the county, and that's going up 4.8. I think we could justify 4.8. Just my opinion.
Okay. Counselor Martin.
I've pretty much had my say as far as bag tags go, but I still don't like the idea of the mail out. It's going to cost $10,000 for postage this year, $20,000 next year, just to mail the bag tags to people. So there's $30,000 we're going to waste in 2 years just in postage. And to give it in one hand, take it back with another or whatever, I'm not in favor of that at all, but hey, I'm good with, I got my points across, and you know, there's 7 of us. I'm the only one. So
That's
actually, I guess there's 2 of us, and we got a bad guy in the middle of us here, but that's okay too, because we love him too.
Counselor Hicks.
For your worship. So Nicole, if we go $4 proposed income, if every resident that currently has curbside buys 1 tag a week at $4 over the course of, I'll say 50 weeks, because they're in sheets of 25, right? That generates 1.47 million. And our shortfall is still what?
For collection, we would not have a shortfall at this point based on today's dollars.
Christie, you look like you need to weigh in. I think you probably do.
Mhm.
But for this year, we're just looking at half the year. So
Yeah.
There would be a shortfall.
For this year.
The $4 tax special tax levy, or them going out and purchasing.
$4 at the storefront at 99 advance.
So for bag tag sales as they are now.
Counselor Shay.
That was my kicker. Because we have at $3, the way the current system is, you'd have to put $848,000 as a tax levy, right? Just to break even to what, be revenue neutral. Now, if we raise that, just so it's clear, if we went from $3 to $4 with the current sales, just the way it is, we would have, I was trying to look back what it was, because we had different scenarios, whatever, you know, in the last projection, but it was still quite a substantial, wasn't it? What, Christie, if you have that?
So we're looking at 1.9 million for the curbside collection as. I apologize, I may have missed part of your question, but at $6 a
No,
tag.
$4
$4 a tag, based on the average sales without a special tax levy.
Yep.
We would make $883,000.
So it'd be $600,000 that we would be subsidizing.
Through the tax.
For. And at 140,000, 4% tax increase alone, right? Of just, tell me if I'm wrong, Nicole, because it's 140,000 per 1%, right? So 600,000. So let's say it's 1.5. So let's say just 1.7% tax increase just to break even, right? Because we have to compensate that, because we have 1.4 million, that's not even including the other 2 sites. That's just for garbage collection process, 1.4. And if we're only going to raise 800,000, right? There's a $600,000 differential. So that $600,000 is going to still be paid by the taxpayer, and that is a 4% tax increase just to go ahead and cover to be revenue neutral. Right? Am I doing my math correctly here? Yes, Nathan? Misty?
I believe so. Just to put it into perspective, based on the current sales of anything as they are, and the cost of our curbside program, at $6 a tag, we would still be slightly under budget or under revenue to cover.
Yeah, but I'm not talking six. I'm just, because the question was just at $4 and you had given us this difference. So that's where I was going. That's why I was, you're at 4% tax increase, not alone anything else. All right. Just to be, that isn't the 1.6 that it costs us for all garbage. It's only 1.4 for garbage collection on the side of the roads. So if we're 4% tax increase alone, just to get the garbage picked up, to get that paid off, then you would have to go ahead. That's the reason why I'm saying, I know there's, and I have just as many arguments against it as I am for it. If you do the mayor's suggestion of $4, you're basically paying it. There's a lot of residents in between that won't, you know what I mean? That don't, you need all those bag tags. And I know there is definitely a lot of cons against it. You're coming up to the 1.6, or you know what I mean? All right, you're raising that extra money because there's more residents going to have to partake into that situation, because it's still, because I have a fixed cost going past your door, whether you use it or not. And that's what Christy explained to me. All right, or explained to us. So whether you use it or not, it still costs you. So what I'm saying is with all of what I've heard on both sides of the story here, is that if everybody pays the $200, all right, then they get the bag tags. They're just paying for up front, but we're going to encaption all the people that are not using those bags, because your percentage of people that are going to have to partake into, or that are getting charged for it, that comes up with the extra money. All right. So therefore, then it'd be revenue neutral. So if you add $200 for 6,700, 6,900 and some odd residents, I believe it was, or the number that you're using, it's still less than a 4% if they got it on the tax bill. So it's still less money that they will have to pay, because as the mayor said, you've got it in this hand now. All right. Where if you tax on it, you still have to buy that bag tag. You know what I mean? You're still buying the bag tag, and you're still going to have that show. That's why I'm saying, if I can go ahead and I'm paying $4 for my bag tag, but you're going to see a higher percentage of tax that I'm going to have to pay. Where if we do the 2.2% or 2.79%, whichever scenario that is, with a $4 the overall tax, if I pay $200 extra on my residents, is less than me paying the percentage of increase that I would get on my taxes that I would have to pay for the shortfall if we kept the system the same. So it might be more complicated. There's a lot more cons in it, but at the end of the day, what's coming out of my pocket is $200 that I'm getting back, or am I going to pay the $400 that I might have to pay the increase on my taxes that I'm not going to get back? And then I still have to buy my damn bag tags after that. So it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I know there's pros and cons both ways. That's the reason why I'm kind of swinging towards the $4. All right. Getting the 25 bags, for the rest of this year, and then next year, and there's going to be problems, and we're going to have to work those problems out as the system goes. All right. But it's less money coming out of the taxpayer's pocketbook at the end of the day. And then if I'm doing my books, it's I want to pay the least amount. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can clarify to me that, am I out to lunch here with my numbers or not? But I think that's going to cost me a whole lot less than a percentage increase to go ahead and pay for the garbage. Am I right, Nicole, or help me out here?
Yeah, you're on the right track.
I'm on the right track. So that's why, guys, I take my wallet out, I'm gonna only give the old tax man $1 or $4, which I'm gonna get back, then the $6 that I'm not gonna see, then I still have to buy my damn bag tag. So that's why the Terry Richardson method works here. Sorry, Terry, not that I just think I listen to everybody and we can all agree to disagree, or we can all say, hey, what's the best bang for the buck? So it's gonna cost you less doing it that way than putting it on this way. That's why. There we go.
I think,
That helped the case at all, or what it did?
yeah, no, it did, Mike. Thanks. I think Counselor Canal.
Thank you, worship, through you. So maybe if we could just make the optics look a little bit better here. If we were to, maybe we could run some numbers here, please. If we were to keep the existing sales, the past sales history that we have on the tags and calculate that by the $4, and then provide me a number of what would be left over from that, that would need to go, that we would need to add on to taxation, be 800 or some odd thousand, or whatever that number is going to be, 600 some odd thousand. And then can we do the same thing with, if we put the $4 in on the tax bill, and tell me what that the residual, the remainder would be on that. And I think that that's what we need to look at, because at the end of the day, I either have the $1.6 million in one pocket, or I have them in two pockets, and I'm just paying the same amount out two different ways.
And sorry, through you, Councillor Pennell, what was the second dollar figure, the second scenario?
Sorry, if we ran with the $4
Yep.
as the scenario in here, and I would, so in on our taxes.
We've got that in column 3, I guess.
Yeah, but I want to know what the residual would be that would have to go to the general tax levy then.
Yeah. but-
So right now, so if we did a half-year projection at the $4, the net amount to the tax levy for total solid waste would be $735,000.
Right, okay. So which would leave us, which would leave us a $453,000 addition that we still need to put onto our taxes, right?
Yes.
What would be the same scenario with the current sales, based on history of the current sales at $4 a bag? What would be the leftover amount? Not adding it into our taxes.
That's 7.
Yeah, that is.
Assuming that just a portion of this year, is that what you're referring to?
Okay, why is this so complicated?
It's not. So what Dave's trying to say, I think, is that, so we've got a column here that says $3 a bag tag as is.
Yeah.
Let's put that column as $4 a bag tag as is, and that's your $735,000, right?
For a proration, because
Yeah,
we're already,
Yeah,
yes.
proration, right? As opposed to sending the 25 bag tags out at $4, that number is going to be a lot higher, because we're selling more bag tags than really
Yes.
what we would do at the store.
That's what I want.
And that's why we're making more money.
Yes.
I hate to say it.
So
that
when
way.
when we are sending it out on, included in taxes, it's $453,000 that needs to be subsidized
Okay.
from the tax base. If we just change our bag tag program as is to bump that up to $4 a tag,
Yeah.
that's where we're getting the 735.
Fantastic, thanks. So there's 300, almost $300,000 more in revenue
Yes,
if we send it out.
yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Nori.
Just to go, sorry, just to go a little bit different direction. I don't need an answer. To look into saving some money in the mail out. What if we buy a bigger envelope, put everything in it, walk it over to the post office, see what that would cost times 6,007? It might be less than $10,000 plus our other send out. Just an idea. Instead of a little, yeah, it goes by weight, but put everything together with a little bigger envelope, what they cost to buy, what it costs to ship them out. Maybe it'll be less than the $10,000 mark. Just a thought.
Yeah, we would, through you, Mr. Mayor, we would have to purchase the additional envelopes still, because we already have our envelopes in stock. So we would still have to do additional envelopes and then the increased postage. So we would probably save a little bit, but I think it would still come in relatively around the same price. Yeah.
But we do have the option of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
So,
We have options.
yeah. Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, your worship. At the end of the day, it's taxes. Taxpayer is paying for garbage, whether it's, I don't care how you slice it, taxpayer is paying for garbage. Always has been, there's always been a shortfall. I still don't like the idea of taking it on everybody's tax bill, another tax levy as per se. Their taxes are already paying for it. The bag tag system was designed to help offset it, which it has offset it a little bit. So user pay type thing. I understand we're only selling X number of bag tags right now and people are doing with whatever. You want to put it on their taxes. You want to give them 25 free tags this year, 50 tags next year. I get that too. What I'm trying to understand is, do you think that people are going to use more bag tags because they have them? I mean, what have they been doing for the last several years? I don't see where it's going to change a lot of things. It's just my 2 cents worth, but I still have an agreement to raising the bag tag and then just plain and simple, have a little tax increase, because that's what you're doing either way, having a tax increase. So that's my 2 cents worth. If you want to call a vote on it, we get her going or whatever we got to do here.
Councilor Martin and Councilor Hicks.
Through your worships. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, go.
No, ladies first. Go ahead, Ange.
Now I just have to, I caught myself off guard there. Through your worship. So if you went with just nothing, if you just said garbage is included in your taxes to a certain extent, not all of it. The Red Tree Estates, the multi-unit dwellings, they're all being taxed for garbage collection. They're all paying indirectly for garbage collection, right? Whereas if we did the tax levy, it's going specifically to residential dwellings that have curbside pickup, whether or not you choose to use it. So I'm thinking of you, Brian, with a dumpster, you with a dumpster, right? But if you just put it on the taxes as part of the general increase, everybody's gonna have a hit of that. What percentage would that be?
So if we, through you, Mr. Mayor, if we take out all of bag tag revenue completely,
Yep.
we would be looking at a 10.39% increase.
Answered that question.
Answered that question.
Go ahead, Councilor Shank.
No, I'm sorry, Bill.
Oh, sorry, Bill goes first and then Mike. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. So I want to do whatever's the cheapest way of doing it. Whatever's the cheapest way of picking up a bag of garbage, that's what I want to do. Whether it's bag tags or taxes or what it is. But I keep looking at this. So if we send everybody 25 bag tags and there's roughly 6,000 residents,
It's about 7,300.
7,300. So that's even more than what I got. I was just taking an average of 6,000. So I think your bag tag revenue is going to be way, way down because you're sending out 120,000 tags just for 6 months.
Yeah.
So
So
you were keeping the bag tag revenue the same?
No. So through you, Mr. Mayor, in the projections where we are sending out tags, we have cut our, based on last year's actuals, we have cut that in half. So we prorated that for half the year and move it to the portion that we would collect off of the tax bill. And we are not accounting for any additional over and above. So if I use 2 bags on average and I need to go and buy additional bag tags, we're not even factoring that in because it's unknown at this point.
Mhm. So I guess that's going to add up to about, if it's over 7,000, so about 50,000 tags we're mailing out this year, 300,000 next year. Okay, just that's, I'm not disputing you. I just,
Counselor Shank.
Just Nicole. So therefore, because it's only half the year. So 25 bags would be issued. They get, the tax bill would get $100, right? On their tax bill as a surplus this year or at an extra cost. Next year, if it works, we find out that all our thoughts were flawed, then we'll deal with that. But I mean, next year, it would be $200 on your first installment or whatever, also because it's based on 50% of your last year's taxes. So your first, there we go. I'm just trying to think of at the same time, it doesn't coincide what the tax bills are at the same time. Wouldn't it be nice January 1st? On one side, you got your garbage bag tags, but don't give me on New Year's Day a friggin' property tax bill. You know what I mean? So that doesn't coincide. So that doesn't save anything there. But I understand the thought process. It's just that it is the cheapest way to do is the $100 and you're getting the bag tags, right? Rather than, the shortfall that you're going to have. Because it's what I'm thinking is it's just the 1.6 million that it costs us. We originally, when we were a host municipality with the thing, our bill was around 400 and some odd $1,000 to get rid of garbage. Now our total to get rid of all our garbage to end our sites is 1.6 million. You know what I mean? And it's not in our contract is only in year 3 or 4 with waste management for 1.4. So it's going to be going up also, you know what I mean? Because I can't see them. So this way here, at least it's a lot cheaper this way to come up with that money than on an overall. Okay, that's it.
Counselor Hicks.
So I have my handy dandy Excel spreadsheet here. So just for 2024, talking 2.9 million in revenue on a tax levy. That's 50 tags a year at $4 a tag per household at 7,354 houses. I get 2.941,600.
Sorry, at $4, that's what you're getting?
a tag.
So my calculation's coming out to 1.47. So seven for 50, so 7,354 residential or properties times 50 times $4 a tag.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, my bad. Okay. It seemed awfully high. That's why I wanted to double check. Okay.
Okay. Has everybody had an opportunity to speak about it?
Yep. I'm ready to vote.
Are we in a position to entertain a motion to put it on the floor to see how it flies?
I think so.
Would anybody wish to make that motion other than me? Yeah. Okay.
Mail out.
So Counselor Norrie, you'll make the motion that
Yeah.
we go with the $4 a bag tag. Is that what I'm hearing?
The mail out.
In the mail out?
Yes.
So we mail out the 25 bag tags for 2023. And we leave the price of bag tags, or we increase the price of bag tags at the store. We put that at $4 as well.
That's correct. Exactly what.
Okay.
What's been proposed? Yes, that's my motion.
Okay. Yep. So we're gonna get cleaned up here. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Just through your worship, what staff would propose that motion look like, just to make sure we are in line with all of our public notice bylaws, is that council directs staff to prepare a budget that includes a levy for 25 bag tags at $4 per tag effective June 1st, 2023, and that the price for all other tags be raised to $4 per tag, subject to the amendment of the garbage bylaw and the required public notice process being followed.
Yeah, it's pretty close to what you said. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll, we'll put her on the floor, Bill, then we can have a little more. Yeah,
May I have a recorded vote, please?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll look for somebody to second that. Counselor Hicks and Counselor Martin has required or asked for a recorded vote. So I think that's your job, I think, is it not?
Yes, it is. Just get my
Got it.
page up here. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Ward 1. Counselor Ward 2.
Yes.
Counselor Ward 3.
Yes.
Counselor Ward 4.
Yes.
Counselor Ward 5.
No.
Deputy Mayor.
No.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. So that is 5-4 to opposed.
So the motion is carried. Okay. Now, I guess in order to clean up, there is some indication or some appetite. We've had conversations today with respect to adding to the roads
Correct.
budget. And somewhere I heard a number of $40,000. Is there any appetite to have a conversation with that and see how that changes our budget?
So that I had already baked into that scenario I had ran. So
Okay.
if council decides to keep that in or out, I can confirm what that number looks like. So right now, with the $4 mail out and the additional 40,000 potentially to be added for public works, we sit at a 2.6% increase on the taxes.
What is everybody's thoughts with respect to that? Counselor Canal.
Through your worship, thank you, Nicole. Could we quickly add the cost of the firefighter onto that and see what that would be, please?
That would be 3.19%.
Thank you.
Other thoughts and questions, concerns? Let's Deputy Mayor Calver.
So right now, putting the $40,000 back in, doing the bag tags, we're looking at a 2.6% increase, correct? But that's still not putting any money into any reserves anywhere.
That is correct.
I still think we should move it up to 4.9, which is acceptable. And that gives us a chance to put some money into reserves. I know we are going to need other things down the road. We need to start building our bank account back up. And I think a 4.9 increase straight across is a very doable thing. And it's going to allow to probably, what would that put into reserves?
I'm just playing some scenarios with or without fire.
Without fire.
Without fire. So without fire, we can put in, if we put in 300,000, that gets us to 4.8.
So that's a doable thing because don't get me wrong, we are going to need a fire probably next year. Get this, everything else hammered out, but let's get some money back in reserves, and that's a way of putting money back into the reserves.
Counselor, I think Counselor Pennell and then Counselor Nori.
Thank you, through your worship. You know, the last council tried to keep this around 2.95. Staff has done a fantastic job. When I look at these numbers here that were presented to us today, when we asked you to go back to the table to slim it up, you really did. And I really appreciate that. But after that being said, I don't want to be like the Joneses. We asked you to slash and you did. And then for us to just want to be like our local neighbors, and because they've done it, we're going to do it. I think that we should look at these numbers strong. The numbers are in front of us because everybody sitting in this room thinks that it can be done, or they wouldn't have been presented to us. So I think that with the addition of the mail out to the bag tags, and I believe that if we don't add the additional firefighter now, we're going to find ourselves behind the 8 ball on that. And we did have a conversation. Councillor Hicks asked me about occupancy dates of the projects that we have on the books now of open permits. It's not so much that the occupancy permits or occupancy dates of that is when they come, it's gonna come fast. And I think that we need to be prepared for this. The addition of A firefighter will bring the squad up to 8 full-time. And I believe that that's nowhere near where we need to be. And trust me, I have not always been of this mindset, but I've been doing some digging into this and I've readjusted my thoughts on this. But to ask staff to go back and cut and cut and cut, and then for us just to throw that back in, I don't think that we need to be there. I think that we owe it to the ratepayers to keep this down as tight as we can for this year. Typically, we were running around a 2.95. So I myself would like to see it as we see it here with the firefighter added, and just the numbers I have here in front of me, because I was trying to jot down, would have been around the 2.2, right? And then plus.
Sorry, with no additional contribution to reserve?
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
Yeah, with the firefighter in, it would be 3.19.
3.1. Yes, thank you. That's what I would like to see. And that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We all want to keep them as low as we can. We know tough times people are having, but we have to be real. Maybe we didn't charge enough in the past getting to reserves. That's the past. Like I said earlier, I was at the county meeting and they're hitting us for 4.8 for our 31%. I think we should go above that. We should stay within the county level just so we're all on the same board. We need to put money in the bank. The rest of us know I don't how you run your house. You just can't go paycheck to paycheck if you can help it. You never know what's around the corner. We could have a major incident with a bridge collapsing or something. So we got to have money in the bank. 4.8 roughly, what is that on the average tax bill, if you don't mind me asking? Not counting the, yeah, 4.8 with everything.
So if your average tax bill was say $2,000, you're looking at a $96 increase.
That includes the bag tags and everything?
No, that would be bag tags on top of it. So another $100, so almost $200. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Deputy Mayor Calver. Yep.
Just a quick question for the chief, and I know you probably can't give me an exact number. What's a replacement pumper truck worth?
Through your worship, around 800,000 at present day cost.
So do we have money in reserve to buy one if it got smacked?
We do not, that I am aware of.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just a general number in reserves.
Right now, roughly in reserves, we have about 2.9 million.
I'll keep talking. Somehow or another, we need to find a way to put some money in reserves. I'll shut up at that point.
That's a shame. The way I base a lot of things is that everything's based on the residential mill rate. So residential rate. So therefore, let's say you go ahead and do a 3% increase in residential. Commercial pays 1 point. Sorry, Nicole.
Commercial full for urban right now, based on 2022 mill rates, 0.25.
So 1.25 more.
Sorry, 0.025.
So 1.25 more than residential.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so it's not a 3% for commercial. All right. And if you're going large industrial is what, 0.03 or 4?
0.03.
So 3 times. So therefore that's a 9% increase. Then when you have figure your assessment shifts, last year's first installment, all right, and this year's first installment, based on that, on my own personal tax, is 41% increase. All right. So when people say it's only $100, whippy do, but when you start paying tens of thousands of dollars or $20,000 or $30,000, and there's a lot of taxpayers here that are fairly large, and they go ahead and start hitting them a little bit harder. Well, if you're only paying $2,000, I wish You know what I mean? Of what you're doing. All right. So that's the reason why, because of until we know exactly where we are financially and the research that we are doing this year, that's the reason why I'm more in favor of keeping our taxes as possible. All right, that you're still doable. So if you come in at 2.9, it ends up with the extra $100. You're going to, average person's going to be around close to 3%. All right, which is livable. All right, especially considering the things. Find out where, and get everything, all our books in order, considering what was been spent in the last 4 years. We went from $10.3 million in 2020 to 2.9 million now. That's not including also the money that all the properties that were sold also, right? From what I understand, what I've done, but you're going to give us that report. But all I'm saying, until I know financially where we are, there's no way I'm going to be going ahead and yes, I agree. We should always put money in reserves. I've always under the known philosophy, even if we're 0%, you always charge 2% and you put that money in the reserves and you put it in the kitties. So the good years, we put it in. Poor years, you have that to fall back on, so nobody gets hit hard. All right. So that's the reason why I'm more on the philosophy as this year, just because all the unknowns that are out there, let's keep it low, because there's going to be some things that are going to come back and go, ooh, what about this? What about that? All right. And do it this way. So that's why I'm more apt to go low this year. So we know where we are financially. All right. And then next year we'll see how things work, because maybe this system doesn't work that we are doing with the waste, and we might have to revisit a different way or retweak when a businesses always change. But right now, that's why I'm more apt to go low this year, because coming off with all the cost increases there are for the commercial business and large industrial and all the other businesses that are going to have to pay more based on our percentages, and the assessment shifts. And I know there's some people, sure, they're retired and they wanted that nice house and everything else. 5 years ago, they were paying 4,000. Now they're paying just under 8. You know what I mean? For that same house. It's great if you want to sell it. It sucks if you want to live here. And I don't want to price to the tax people to the point that they got to move out of the area. So that's what my philosophy is on it. And
Councillor Hicks.
Through your worship, Nicole, just because there's been a lot of numbers tossed around. So with the crack ceiling added back in, the mailing, that's 50,000. Firefighter, we're going to go with the $4 per tag, etc. If we went 3.5% increase, what would that give us to put into the reserve?
So 100,000 would get us to 3.3. Oh, sorry, with the firefighter in, hang on. Not a lot. So yeah, be between $10,000 and $20,000 to reserve. So if we put an additional 10,000 into reserve with the firefighter in, it would be 3.26% increase.
I'm gonna.
Wait, Councillor Hicks.
We're all sitting around the table.
I'll give a suggestion here. Maybe it's a good one, maybe it's not. But let's start breaking this down just a little bit further. Is there any interest in adding the firefighter in this year or next year? We could. I guess what I want to do is break it down to the point where we can get this thing solved. And I think we can, because at this point now that we got the garbage issue resolved, we're going to deal with the firefighter issue. And I think is everybody content with the $40,000 going into infrastructure into the roads? Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. What I want to do is we're going to have to dissect this. We're going to have to dissect this to the point where I think we can get this done. So if we dissect it, if everybody's happy with the $40,000, we leave that in there. Now our only sticking point is, do we want to do the firefighter this year or do we want to wait and do it next year? And once we get that resolved, then now we're golden because all we got to do is figure out the rate, how much we want to put in reserves, if we want to put any in reserves, right? Is that making any sense?
Yes.
Because I see the firefighter issue as being a bit of a sticking point right now. I see, Madam Clerk.
I was just gonna say, if you guys could pass a motion for that $40,000, we can take that. Because we will need a motion for that.
We'll need a motion for that.
I move.
So you go ahead, Mike. We'll go ahead and then we'll get the
So
motion.
This is, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but all I'm saying is it's very hard for me to go ahead and say no to a firefighter, but yes to $40,000 when your first initial rate for a firefighter is 58,000 starting salary. All right, that gives the 8, but I'm totally against a 24-hour shift. All right, for the size of our municipality, but I'm in agreement. If you go ahead and you give the chief gets 8 guys, that helps us rotation, but it's kind of a sticking point with me. But I can't see somebody working 82 days a year, but you know what I mean? But I agree that the chief needs an extra firefighter, but I just, for the amount of calls we have, I can't see a 24-hour shift. So this, I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but it's hard for me to go ahead and say, oh, by the way, chief, the fire department's been taken away over a lot of the years, and then go, oh, by the way, we're going to give $40,000 to fill cracks, but we won't go ahead and spend 58 on a firefighter. You know what I mean? So palatability has to be better approach. You know what I mean? So help me out on this one.
Let's break it down. In my opinion is let's break it down. We'll put a motion out there to see if we want to add any money at all or $40,000 budget for all infrastructure services. We'll deal specifically with, after that, we can deal specifically with if we want to add a firefighter this year or next year. Get those 2 sticking points out of the way. And I think we can get this budget done really, but does that, I'm just throwing this out, I'm just spitballing this because we're gonna get into basically what we've got right now is that we're gonna throw numbers back here, we're gonna throw numbers there. Can we do this? Can we do that? Is there a will, I guess, to throw money back at infrastructure, and is there a will to throw money at a firefighter?
So, through your,
I don't disagree with you in the fact that maybe it is an all or nothing. We do both. So go ahead, Chief.
through your worship, if I can just shed some light on what we're actually asking for at this point in time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It may help the discussion as we move forward. We understand that there's a huge cost for one firefighter. We know that in 2024, I will be coming back asking for 4, not just 1. So I'll leave you with that. We want to see the department move forward. We've had discussions at our senior leadership table. If you accept the fact or pass the budget as is right now with a firefighter in it, we can't hire this firefighter right away. It's going to take several months. We have vacations coming up with our own staff. It's going to go internal. We're not anticipating this firefighter hitting the ground much before the fall, excuse me, which is not a full year salary. So the full year salary, as Councilor Shank says, about 58,000, add in the 30% for benefits and all that's around 73. We're looking at maybe 1/4 of that. If you were to say, yes, you can go ahead and order a firefighter, if that happens. So again, we're not looking at this being a full firefighter right now. We only have half a year left by the time all this is said and done. It's going to take us 2 or 3 months to get that person hired, up and running, hitting the ground, maybe the last quarter of this year. Just to shed a bit of light on what we're actually asking for at this point. To Councillor Pennell's comments and a few others on council, you do have to look at growth. We do have to look at growing this fire department at some point. We are here to help. We're here to help this year. The 8th will get us a start, if that's the wishes of council.
Thanks, Chief. I'm thinking, is that helpful to everybody? Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, could I ask the chief a question as to, with our current population that we have right now, how, by ministry standards, how many full-time firefighters should Greater Napanee have?
So through your worship, the national standard, which again, whether we adopt it or not, is one full-time per 1,000 population. So if we're around 17,000, and I don't know what our actual population is through Stats Canada at this point, we should be at about 16 full-time firefighters. And we're at 7 right now. Correct.
And that's not, and we have more growth.
And again, we're looking to better the department and our response and all that with the growth coming, yes.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you. Actually, the chief just basically stated what I had done. My question was going to be, or our statement was going to be that we're not actually paying a full year's wage. I broke it down into quarters because I figured by the time it's implemented, it's going to be half a year gone anyways. Bill's saying now, or chief is saying probably only going to be a quarter of the cost, possibly. So half to a quarter, maybe. I had figured out a half, but the 3 things that I was always most important is always health, policing, and fire protection. And we don't want to scrounge on fire protection, like to save $1 here and there. And I really honestly believe we're going to need firefighters in the future, probably next year. So if we don't add one now, we're going to be adding multiple ones next year all at once. So we need to kind of phase in the cost. I think we got to get used to paying that extra cost for the firefighters. So
I think Nicole.
just my thoughts on that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I quickly just adjusted my scenario. So if we take, because the cost of the additional firefighter, that was at a full year. If I prorate that down to half a year with an additional $250,000 into reserves, we can come in at 4.72% for 2023. Just food for thought.
That's with the $40,000 to infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay, well, let's,
And that's still no money going into reserve.
No, that was with an additional 250,000 into reserves.
So with the firemen,
Yes,
with the $40,000 and putting how much into reserves?
$250,000.
What is your tax rate at now?
It would be increase of 4.72%.
Includes bags too.
That is the bag tag scenario.
That's everything out the door.
we need to break it down, or we, do you want to break it down into sections, or are we good with the numbers going to be presented? Councilor Pennell.
Thank you, worship, through you. What's the number without the reserves? Going back to what Mr. Shank was saying.
Without reserve, so Public Works piece in. And the firefighter at half year prorated 2.89%.
Thank you.
Okay. Where does somebody want to put a motion on the floor? I mean, I'm going to agree with Councilor Shank and the fact that this is a year that we need to maybe just tighten things up, at least for the short term anyways, but I'm quite impressed with a 2.89% increase with a firefighter and a $40,000 help out with the infrastructure services. I understand about the issue with reserves. I'm hoping that in the not too distant future, our reserves are going to be helped out with the sale of some properties. But I mean, that's where I'm coming from, but
I'll make the motion for 2.85%. That includes the firefighter, full-time firefighter. All right. The 24-hour shift will have to be an argument another day, chief. And so, but the 2.85, that includes $40,000.
Sorry, 2.89.
Okay.
And that includes the 40,000 back to Public Works.
Yep.
The 15,000 for the Wi-Fi that we discussed earlier. And then the firefighter prorated at half year.
There we go. I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor moved by Counselor Shank. Do we have a seconder? Counselor Pennell,
Do we have a recorded vote,
and
please?
we could have a recorded vote, yeah. We have a motion on the floor. We'll look for a recorded vote. We'll turn to Madam Clerk.
So just so that everybody is clear on what you are voting for in this motion, you are voting that you are amending the budget as present, add $40,000 to infrastructure operating, to add another firefighter prorated at 50%. Nicole, can I actually get a dollar on that?
The total tax levy dollar?
No, the total cost that we're adding in the budget for the firefighter position.
Oh, $40,500.
And that you are approving a tax rate increase of 4.89%. So
2.8.
2.89, sorry, my bad. That 2.89%, that is what is being voted for in this recorded vote.
And sorry,
Sorry, go ahead, Counselor Pennell.
just to be clear, and that's with the mailing of the bag tags.
Correct.
Yes, that was already voted on
Yes,
previously.
but I just want to be clear on that. Yeah, thanks.
2.89%, okay.
Yeah, any comments, questions before we go to the recorded vote?
There's
Counselor
two,
Shank, Counselor Shank, Counselor Hicks, Counselor Martin.
we have $2.9 million left in the reserves. All right. So when you put out the final budget or when you set out a little, it says discretionary at the last budget meeting we had, it said $11 million. So when I read it, and if I didn't know anything about the finances, I go, well, Travis, you're sitting on $15 million as according to the last numbers. So I go, well, what are you guys wanting so much high? So all I'm saying is if it's explained that discretionary is not really discretionary because I don't have it, So you understand what my thought is? So
Yes, because the utilities reserves are included in that, which what makes those amounts so much higher.
Exactly. And another thing, no, I'm going to discuss that on another date. The point is with the possible sales and one very likely sale. All right. And from what we don't know out there, that's the only reason why I'm going this way this year. All right, there we go.
Thanks, Counselor Hicks.
Through your worship. Well, I don't like 4.72%, but I do agree with Deputy Mayor Calver that we should be putting something, even if it was 100,000 into reserves this year. We may not sell property until December 15th. We may not sell property until next year. We're all hoping that it sells this year, but and I'm also I also agree with Councillor Shank that the average homeowner with children in this town cannot take on too much more regarding the cost. They can't. Like the people that I talk to, they're stretched thin. And it is paycheck to paycheck for a lot of them. So I don't know what it would have to be to get to 100,000 in reserves.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to add 100,000 to reserves, all encompassing the other scenarios we talked about, 3.62% for $100,000 additional.
Counselor Hicks, yeah.
Compared to surrounding municipalities, it gives a buffer, it gives something. I like to operate my own personal finances, that I've got that little something tucked away for a rainy day, pay yourself first. That I just.
Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I really like the idea of adding the firefighter. And I mean, for $40,000, you said, Nicole, I think for the balance of the year, by the time Bill gets one hired. To me, that's got to be in there. It's just got to be. I want to keep taxes as low as possible. But $40,000 cut from a fire person is just, that's not acceptable to me either. So I'm not sure about the reserve thing. If we don't, I mean, I like to save money, but not at the expense of, like you say, young families, businesses. Mike was saying, you know, we got to keep the taxes as low as possible. And that tax bill is going to have that bag tag levy on it. So whatever amount is a tax, that levy puts it up higher. So we got to keep it low as well. But I really like the firefighter in there. The reserve thing, you know, maybe everybody can try to save money this year and we won't use the money we budget in total. Maybe we'll have a 0.25% or something of money we can put in the reserve. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Keep taxes low, but hire that firefighter. It's important.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the, I think that's part of the resolution. So.
Yeah.
Or the motion, sorry. Is there anything else that we've got a motion on the floor? We can call a vote. We'll see where it, we can
Yes,
see where it lands and then we'll go from there, I
There
guess.
there was a recorded vote on this, so I will go around the table once again, just to.
Yep, just,
Yeah, we'll read the motion one more time. So the motion is that the budget be amended to include $40,000 added into the operating budget for infrastructure services, crack sealing work. An additional firefighter position prorated at half a year for an additional $40,500 and an overall tax rate increase of 2.89%.
Thank you. Are we all agree? Well, we're good with what's on the floor then first, right?
See,
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor
The
Shank.
only reason why I'm saying this, and I agree with the Deputy Mayor Calver that we should always put, and Councillor Hicks, that we should put some money in reserves. But with everything that we know that's going on this year, you know, the service delivery review and the other efficiencies that we're finding, and you know what I mean, going back into one building and stuff like this, you know, and with the cost of living, how it's impacted the residents that we represent, that's the reason why I'm in agreement with this. If it was a normal year and everything else, then hey, yeah, let's throw some money into reserves. But there's going to be efficiencies through along, because if we don't find efficiencies, there's no way that a ratepayer will be able to live here. You know what I mean? So we have to find efficiencies in every type of business that you do. So as what we have on our table right now, I think we'll have a better picture at the end of the year to see what's working, what isn't working, you know what I mean? And where we are. And that's the reason why for this, our first year on council, let's run with that and then see what our efficiencies are and what aren't, you know what I mean? And see, because I think next year we'll be able to do a lot more things if everything comes into fruition, you know. There we go. That's my sales pitch for the 2.89%.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we've got a motion on the floor. We've got a request for a recorded vote. Let's see where it lands.
Okay, Counselor Ward 1,
Yes.
Counselor Ward 2. Counselor Ward 3,
Yes.
Counselor Ward 4,
Yes.
Counselor Ward 5,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
That is unanimously carried.
Thank you, folks. Where are we going now?
So through your worship, we do have 2 additional motions that we would like to get passed, just that directing staff to bring these, to do our public notice and bring these to the April 25th meeting for final approval with all of those revisions that have been made at today's meeting.
We'll look for a motion that Jessica just said. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And the next one, Jess?
I mean, I guess if you wanted to do operating and capital together, that could be a motion.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did that. Okay. Look for a motion for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the 30th of March, 2023, moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further questions, comments, or concerns, we'll do a first, second, and final reading and finally passed. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Need a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Shank, by Councillor Pennell. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, folks. it was very, very good conversation today and we covered a lot of ground. So thanks again and we'll see you soon.